How much trouble is the Toronto condo market in right now? We know that smaller units are having issues selling. We also know that the pre-construction market is an absolute mess right now, which I've been warning you all about for basically the last 5 years on this channel. Pretty much everything that's being delivered in 2025 that was bought 3 years ago is worth less than they paid for. And most of that will just become rental inventory, which will probably push rental prices down. So maybe that's a good thing if you're a renter. And we also know that overall sales volume is very low. My name's Tom Storey and welcome back to the channel. If you learn anything new today, all I'd say is please give this video a like. I really would appreciate it, and get subscribed, because the data that I had to manually pull out to put this video together took me several hours. If you are someone looking for a realtor that understands the data and is willing to put in the work and not just put you on an automated property search, you can book a call with our team in the first link in the description. Something that's a little bit amusing to me is that people make assumptions on the overall market because of a soundbite or a news headline, but they don't really break down the numbers in a comprehensive way. And that's what today's video is. This is a video that I don't really think I've ever done before on the channel, where I'm really breaking things down into different categories to show you behind the scenes what's sold, what's active on the market for the condo space, and what it could mean to you. All right, let's jump right into it. So just to preface this, what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about sold data, so properties that have actually sold so far in 2025. We're also going to talk about what's actively for sale right now, and then we're going to wrap up the video with the 5-year trends on what's been happening with the condo market. We are talking about only the Toronto condo market, the 416 area code. We're talking about condo apartments, so condo townhouses are not a part of this video because they're behaving a lot different than the overall condo market anyways. I feel it's not fair to put them together. I'm only talking about the resale market. I'm not talking about new construction in this video. And we're going to break this down to two different categories. First, I'm going to do it based on bedrooms, number of bedrooms and dens. And then I'm going to give you another breakdown just based on the square footage to show you like what is for sale, what has actually sold, and how are we breaking this down, and what property type is selling quicker and being absorbed faster versus the types that are sitting longer. And it's really just based on the space and how many bedrooms there are. So the first thing we're going to break down is what has actually sold so far based on number of bedrooms. Now, this is for the city of Toronto from January 1st, 2025 until April the 23rd. This video will come out a little bit after April the 23rd, but you get the idea. The numbers aren't going to change that much. So 0 bedrooms, meaning bachelor unit, represents less than 2% of all the condo apartments that have sold so far this year. That's interesting to me for a few different reasons, mostly just because there's been so much talk about these small condos and how nobody wants them. It's like, yeah, I agree with you because they were always investor units and the investors aren't there right now, but they are a very, very small percentage of what's actually sold, but we'll get into a little bit more detail on that in a second. 1 bedrooms make up about 18-19% of the market. 1+ dens, 25% of the market. 2 bedrooms make up the biggest percentage of condos that have sold so far in 2025. 30% of the market. 2+ dens, 16% of the market. And then 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms and all the other things that could show up in the search make up the additional 7% of the market. So that's what has actually sold. Firm transaction, no more conditions. The price has been posted so far in 2025. Now, I'm a visual guy, so I break all these down into pie charts as well. So this is basically what it looks like, right? You can just see the biggest segment of the market that is selling right now is 2 bedrooms, followed by 1+ dens, and then followed by 1 bedrooms and then 2+ dens. And you can see the 0 bedrooms and the 3 bedrooms make up the smallest percentage of the market for condo apartments, which kind of makes sense. But the 2 beds and the 1+ dens are doing okay. And actually the 2+ dens, decent percentage of what's actually selling in the market. But that's what's sold. But what's for sale right now? And does it add up for what's selling versus what is for sale? So on the market right now, 0 bedrooms make up basically 3% of the active inventory for sale. And we know, going back to what we just looked at, is that the ones that are actually selling is less than 2%. So you can see there's a difference there. So it means the absorption rate of the 0 bedrooms is very, very low. You can see the 1 bedrooms for on the market right now is 22%. 1+ dens is 24%. 2 bed, 28%. 2+ den, 13%. And your 3 bedrooms make up 7.5%. 0.49% of the market. Now, again, to visualize this is what it looks like. So on the market right now in the city of Toronto, at least as of me filming this video, this is the breakdown based on bedrooms. And I'm going to get into square footage in a second here, but this is based on bedrooms. Now, if we now look at these two charts, let's start with the sold data. You can see the sold data for the 1+ dens versus what's on market kind of lines up. It's like it kind of makes sense that that's the percentage that's for sale in the market, and that's the percentage that's actually sold. You can see the 2-bedroom data. It's actually outperforming. So more are selling because it's representing 30% of all the units that have sold, but only 28% of what's actively for sale. Now, there's not a huge delta there, but it is worth noting. 2+ dens, same thing. On market only represents 13%, but 16% of what's actually selling. Now, where's the market really, really slow right now? And you can see it in these numbers. On market, 1-bedrooms make up 22%, but they only are 18% of what's actually sold. So there's give or take a 5% delta there. You can also see it with the 3-bedrooms. On market, they represent 0 bedrooms. On market, they represent 3% versus only 1.7% of what's actually selling. And the 3+ dens are pretty similar. So what this is showing us right now, at least for how many bedrooms and dens a property has for a condo apartment, is that 2 beds, 1+ dens, 2+ dens are doing all right based on the absorption for what would make sense based on what's sold versus what's on the market. It's the 1 beds and the 0 bedrooms that are not being absorbed at the same rate as these other property types. Now, so far we've talked about the number of bedrooms, but now let's break it down based on how many square feet it actually is, because this is another way that we can look at it. Now, these are a lot of numbers. I'm going to show you the pie chart here in a second. But if we just quickly take a look at these numbers, you can see that percentage-wise of the most amount of condos selling is actually 6 to 699 square feet. It represents 18% of all the condos that have sold so far in 2025. But then the second biggest percentage, you got 15% for 5 to 599 square foot. That's your 1-bed, 1+ den floor plan. And then if we go down here, 1,000 to 1,200 square feet is actually number 3 at 13%. So this is something I've talked about a little bit. These larger condos are doing pretty good right now because a lot of the buyers for them are downsizing and they don't have mortgages. They're buying cash. So it's a whole different conversation. Now, here's the pie chart showing you what's sold so far for a condo apartment in 2025 and how it all breaks out based on the square footage. Now, I shouldn't have used the same color here for 0 to 499 square feet for 1,400 plus square feet, but you can see here 0 to 499 square feet only represents 5.6% of all the sales that have happened. It's a very small percentage of the listings. In fact, more condos sold over 1,400 square feet than they did under 500 square feet. So that just shows that there's a preference for these larger floor plans. Then everything else kind of makes sense in terms of how I would look at the market and where things are trading. A few more I want to show you though. We've just talked about sold data per square foot. Now let's talk about, well, what's for sale right now as of me recording this video. And this is where the delta changes. This 0 to 499 square feet, 8% of the active condos for sale in the city of Toronto are under 500 square feet. These are these small condos that we know are having trouble selling right now. And I'll show you the visuals here in a second. And you've got 6 to 699 making up almost 20% of what's actively available for sale. And you can see what these numbers look like. Now let's get to the visuals. So 8.8% are these small condos. 7 to 799, you got 14%, 6 to 699, 20%. That's the biggest portion of the market. But now let's show them side by side. And this is where by square footage, it's actually more of a difference than it is based on number of bedrooms. So if we take a look here and we go, what's sold so far for these small units is 5.6% of the market, but what's on the market right now is 8.8% of the market. So you've got a delta there. We're also seeing it in 5 to 599 square feet. There's more on the market than what's sold. But let's look at the areas where more percentage of absorption is actually happening. So that 8 to 899 square feet, that on market only represents 11% of the market, and it's just over 12%. So not that much different, but it's trading a little bit better. The 9 to 999 square feet, 8% of the market, only 7.5% of the sold. And as we keep getting bigger, here's where the gaps start happening. 1,000 to 1,200 square feet represents 9% of what's for sale, 9.5%. But of what's actually sold, it's 13%. So what does this all mean? It basically means, and we knew this coming into this video if you've been following this, the trouble we're seeing in the condo market, to answer the question from the beginning of this video, is with 1 bedrooms and 0 bedroom units. The rest of the condo market is by no means a seller's market, but things are trading okay. I was literally negotiating an offer for one of my 2 bedroom listings just before I started filming this video. Like, I'm getting lots of showings and tractions on my 2 beds. 1+10s are doing all right, depending on what it is and what the floor plan is and does it have parking. It's the 1 beds and the junior 1 beds that are having an issue. So here's what the 5-year price trend looks like. Now, I use median sales price for this chart, and the 3 highlights that I put, this was pandemic happened, this was peak of market, this was when condos rebounded in the summer of 2023, just before the last 2 rate hikes, because Bank of Canada said they were pausing at the beginning of that year. And this line here is just to show you where condo prices are at today. If we just draw a line across, was basically like where they were just before the pandemic. So, they've been on a bit of a wild ride here, but they've come right back to where they were end of 2019, early 2020. And that's pretty much across the board for everything. And then we got to look at months of inventory. Well, what type of supply do we have? And you can tell, like looking at both these charts, well, just before the pandemic, the supply just after the pandemic, the supply started going up. And then if you look here in 2022, when we had our absolute lowest supply, under 1 month of inventory, which is insanity, that's when we were at the peak of the market. And when supply dropped off again, that's when we had that little bump up in the summer of 2023. Now, this red line here, anything over 6 months, and this is just for the city of Toronto, different pockets are higher or lower. So like downtown core, it could be 7 to 9 months of inventory, depending on the area that you're looking at. We've only really truly been in a buyer's market for a little bit of time here. But where we are with inventory right now, nothing would show me that condo prices are going to move up at any point in 2025. So here's a recap. 0 beds are a tough sell. The only way you sell a bachelor unit condo in the city of Toronto is to undercut all your competition. In that scenario, you can stage it, you can make it look amazing. The only thing that matters, 95% of your marketing for that property is going to be price it the lowest if you actually want to sell. If you don't like where prices are at right now, you're probably going to have to wait several years for things to get back to a price that you're probably more happy with. Your 1 bed and 1+10s are slow, but 1+10s are doing better than 1 beds. Your 2 beds and 2+10s are actually, it's not that bad. Honestly, it's not that bad. You're not going to see price growth, but it's not that bad. And your 3 bedrooms are also doing okay. I know that was a lot of information, and I appreciate if you've made it to the end of this video. What our team is finding right now is that our buyers that are buying condos, I think, are getting really great deals, but all of them are going in with a mindset of, I'm going to own this for a minimum of 5 years. Our sellers that are coming to the market, we try to show them this data before they list so they know what the expectation is, how long this could take to happen. And we're finding success. We're selling condos every single week in our business, but this is a market that isn't going to get better for prices for quite some time. So if you own a condo here in the city of Toronto, you're going to have to wait a few years for prices to come back. As of right now, for most condos, we are in a buyer's market or just teetering in between balance and buyers, but pushing towards that buyer's direction. I think it's going to remain that way for a long time. If you learned anything new today, make sure to like this video, get subscribed. My name's Tom Storey, and remember, home is where your story begins. And if you are looking to buy that first property in 2025, we have a full breakdown video that you can watch next. Thank you so much for watching.